Buying gear from traders or even on the flea is often one of the most expensive ways to go about it, especially if a barter exists for that item. With each wipe, BSG changes, modifies, tweaks, removes, does all sorts of things with the barter system. And on top of that, they constantly modify them as we go through each wipe so that they can fill gaps, change dynamics, mix up the economy a little bit. This makes it super hard to keep track of them and know what is actually the best barters out there. So that's what this video is for, to keep you up to date, get you in the know, so you're not wasting money on a part that might be 150,000 rubles on the flea market, but only costs you a 15,000 ruble barter. So make sure you're subscribed and that you got that notification bell turned on so that you see these when they first drop and you can take advantage of them. Also, as a side benefit, going through these barters, you're going to see some unbeknownst items to you that are going to be worth a lot of rubles because the barters themselves drag the price up on these items in raid. So let's jump right into it. We'll go through these trader by trader. I'll put chapters down below so that you can jump to the ones you're interested in, or if you need to come back, you know right where to go. So our first is going to be Prapor, and we'll look at loyalty level 1 right out the gate. And he's going to be your best source of grenades, especially at low levels. He has this F1 barter for an ES lamp, which right now isn't really cost effective, but if you don't have the flea, this is about the only way you're going to get grenades. After this, you have what's probably one of my favorite early wipe barters, and that is the AKM. And this works early wipe or not. It gives you access to a 7.62 rifle, which is incredibly powerful now, for 3 cans of Tushonka. It doesn't take much to modify it. It shoots 7.62 PS that you can buy from Prapor, and it allows you to go select fire to fully auto for those close in oh shit engagements. I'll even use this later in wipe if I'm trying to build an AKM and they're costing 60 or 70,000 on the flea. I can get this one for a lot cheaper. Now with this barter that's important to go along with this is they removed the ability to buy the 7.62 mag off of Prapor loyalty level 1 with the 12-12-30 patch, but there's still a barter here, and it's for these yellow pliers for 30 round mag. These pliers are easy to find. They're all over the place. They're not like rare like some of the other tools are. And it gives you a couple of mags to go into raid with to put on 30 rounds into that AKM, so you're a little bit more effective in your fights than just a 10 rounder. Now at loyalty level 2, which is level 15, Prapor gives you access to some very interesting things now. Now these barters have always been here, but with the recent changes to what they did to ammo, BT is an absolute monster of a round now. With 40 pen, it'll go clean through most class 4 armors on the first shot, which means you're going to shred players for many months to come just using this ammo. Now you can only get 2 boxes of 30 with the Tushonkas, and it'll be a little expensive, but you're paying for good ammo, you're going to get good results. However, on the other side with the defuels, you can have an unlimited amount you can barter each cycle, at least as of making this video. And you don't need to necessarily full stack your mags. Quite frequently, if I've got good ammo like this, if on a 30 round mag, I'll put 15 rounds on top of say BT, and then underneath that I'll have PP or BP. So one 30 round box can give you 2 mags of ammo. Now, after this, on loyalty level 2, I think the next most valuable one is going to be this Valde scope. Now, later on, it can save you money. Right now, what it does is it gives you access to an assault scope with good visibility that you can put on a lot of different weapons before you have the flea market. And that ability to engage at range is super helpful when fighting scavs or even PMCs. And then later on in the wipe, you'll be able to get this for about 40k rubles, which is much cheaper than you can usually get it buying it straight off the flea market. Now up next, we have the 6L31 60 round mag. Now you don't get this until you actually do the ice cream cones task, which is where you got to turn in 3 of these to Prapor that are found in raid, but you can use this for the mag for your gunsmith part 2. So instead of spending, like right now, we're early wipe, but right now, instead of spending 80, 90, 100,000 on this, you get a thermostat and it's 30,000 and you get the mag. You can throw that right on that AKS 74U and finish the task. Now, the last barter here is a long-term barter. Right now, early wipe, this barter just doesn't make sense because fuel's super cheap. What are we selling? These metal cans for? Probably 40, maybe 50K. That doesn't even cover the cost of these fuel conditioners. So early wipe, not super good. But as the wipe goes on and fuel starts to get more expensive, and it always does, once you hit about that 90K, 100K cost on fuel, this is the only way I'll get fuel. I just use these and fill my generator up with each reset, and you're good to go. Now, next up, we have Therapist down the line here. And at level 1, the big important barters here I like to point out to people are the keys. All three of these keys on here are needed for some of the low-level tasks, and if you're just walled off because you can't find them in raid because of RNG, gives you an option to get them. And this has become even more important now that your friends can't throw keys out for you with the changes to the RMT countermeasures or whatever they want to call them. The first of these is Dorms 206, and I used it this wipe as well. 7 pile of meds, which you can pick up in raid. Eventually you can craft them, but I wouldn't worry about that. Find them in raid, keep 7 of them that you find, turn them in for this 206 key, and then you can use them for Project Aquarius, which is one of Therapist's tasks. Now, for a whole pile of food, you got these 2 green teas, 4 crackers, 2 squashes, you can get a Tarkon's Director key. This is needed for Prapor task, mechanic task. There's quite a few tasks over in Big Red that you need this for. Plus, it's got a safe up in there and some computers to loot, so it's not bad to loot. But if you can wait till you get to loyalty level 2, there is another barter for the same key that is 4 golden chains. It's a little bit easier to get. Yes, it's more expensive, but these are not too bad to find, especially if you're running on woods or you're checking some of the other high valuable areas. Now back on 1, you have the Dorms 303 key. This is needed for golden swag, 7 T-plugs and 3 pieces of tape. So if you can't find this key, here's another way to get it. Now away from the keys on loyalty level 1, we have the Salewa, and I use this one a lot myself. Salewas are running usually over 30,000, sometimes a little bit cheaper. We're seeing 24, 25. But you also have this at 1 before you have the flea market. So if you find a paid in raid, you can transfer it. Now you have a really good med. Salewas are great, especially at low levels. And some people will use them for the whole wipe. I use them until I get Grizzlies unlocked because that's my preferred med. But even after you get the flea market unlocked, a lot of times you'll get these paids for less than 20,000. It's kind of expensive right now, but that's just part of the spike. So make sure if you're getting Salewas, you're always checking this barter to see if you can get your Salewas for a little bit cheaper. It also means if you find one of these cans of paid, you should probably take out a raid because as you saw there, you can sell it for 25, 26,000 sometimes. And then one more quick mention is the toothpaste barter. The really big use for this is just to get your laboratory upgraded. If you're having a hard time finding that toothpaste in raid, remember if you have 2 orthodontics, you can barter those for a toothpaste and then get your your level 1 laboratory started. Now at loyalty level 2, you get access to your first cases with her for barters. And the docs case is going to be the big one. I do this as soon as I can because it's so valuable for what you can take into raid and get out of raid, because you can take a bunch more keys with you now, as well as when you find items like intel items that can go in, or info items, not intel items, can go into the docs case, as well as, some streamer items like the Veritas guitar pick, or I think pro kills can go in there, maybe not pro kills, but bitcoins and GP coins and stuff like that. I did a whole video explaining the docs case and the sick case and why use one or the other. You can go check that out if you want more information on that. But as I'm making this video, the docs case is about 380 to 400K in cost, which is much less than you can get it on the flea market right now. I think they're pushing 500 or 600. So you're getting it quite a bit cheaper than you can if you buy it, if you just go through and buy all the items. But if you get a horse, each horse you find is like 40K off. The cat is 50K, and a lion, if you don't have it found in raid, is a big part of that chunk as well. Loyalty level 2 also makes available the med case barter, and it's expensive. It'll push about 600K or more, but it's an incredibly valuable barter. And if you do things like only use up your Vaselines to 1 of 6 and don't use them all the way up, you can still use them in this barter. Now the key tool is another one. I'll mention it. I don't use it myself. I don't like it that much. I don't like how limited in its utility is because you only put keys in there, but some people really do like it. So it's here. It's pricey. It's 600 to 700K, but doing that versus only being able to go into raid with 3 or 4 keys, this is really a good way to go, especially maps like Shoreline and Resort or Reserve that have tons of keys. As you can see here, a barter that gets used a lot is this IFAC barter because it gives you access to IFACs. Now, sodium I usually use to craft bleach with, but you can see here you're getting it for 8, 9, 10, 11,000, really, really cheap. Whereas the IFAC itself, let me search that, is probably 15 to 20,000. So you're getting your IFAC for half the price. And the IFAC is a really popular med for a lot of people to use. But that wraps up Therapist for now, and we'll hop over to Skier. And he's probably the lightest of all the guys with barters. He's only got a couple here that are really worth mentioning, but we'll go over them really quick. The first is the MP153 barter. Not a great barter, but it can save you a little bit of money. You can usually do this barter for about 25K, which is cheaper than you can buy it from Jaeger. And if you don't have Jaeger loyalty level 2, this is the best way to get a brand new MP153. And that's pretty much it for loyalty level 1. If we hop over to 2, there's a couple worth mentioning here. The first is the G30 Mag X. This is the 30 round mag for the 45 Vector. You can't buy these until you're level 3 mechanic, which is level 30 at the earliest, or a bunch of money on the flea market. So this allows you to barter for 6 of them at a time, so you can actually run the Vector, which is unlocked at Skier loyalty level 2, once you complete Friend from the West 2, which is where you got to give $6,000 to him to unlock PeaceKeeper tasks. Now, the next barter is a new barter with one of the new items in the game, the VHS for a 5.56 Mini. This suppressor is kind of expensive, and it's needed in some of the suggested gunsmith builds out there, so this is just a cheaper way to get a hold of it. The 5.56 Mini, later in wipe, it can push well over, 80, 100,000. Right now, it's going for about 70. And the VHS is probably 35, 40,000. So saves you a little bit of money there to get that suppressor. But with that, we'll go over to PeaceKeeper now, and his barters can be some of the more difficult ones to get simply because it's hard to get his tasks unlocked and get him leveled up for some people, and it's all in dollars. But his barters are really good, and his barters do count towards his 18K. You see, I got 18K spent up here. The barters count towards that. Whether even though you're not using dollars, you're using items, it helps level that up. And with him, you have probably what is one of the most used barters in the game. Now, he just reset. You see 3 hours left, and this barter is already almost out. 137, 92. This thing's going to run out almost instantly as soon as the reset happens. And that's because the ump is so incredibly powerful as a low-level player. It's one of the best guns you can use. It takes 7 of the black-handled Damascus knives, and you have yourself an ump. And then you can just buy the mags and ammo right off of it. And similar to this, you have the MP5 barter, obviously not as popular because it's not as powerful, but still useful for players that are struggling. You get 8 of these brown-handled knives, and it'll give you an MP5. Now, moving up to loyalty level 2, we have the grenade barter, which is important not because you're going to use the grenades, but this is a place to save you a ton of money on Prapor's task, no offense, where you got to give him 10 M67 grenades. These things can cost anywhere from 25 to 50,000 rubles, depending on when you're looking at them. And needing 10 of them, you got to buy a bunch of them. But the task doesn't require found in raid M67s. They can be non-found in raid. So you can buy yourself a couple of Zibbos, which they can be all over the place. They can go anywhere from 8 or 9,000 all the way up to 20,000, just kind of depending on the time of day. But you get 2 of those, barter them for your grenades, and you got cheaper M67s. Just keep in mind you can only do 8 and you need 10 for the task. So if you get the task and you don't have some lying around, you're going to need to wait for a reset to be able to finish it. Also on loyalty level 2, you have a couple of task barters. These are for the gunsmith task line. This UTG-4P and the short barrel are both needed in gunsmith tasks, so it's a cheaper way to get them than buying them because they're usually really expensive. I don't know there's not even any listed on the market right now, but probably easily 100K for one of those. But we do have your first access to a 7.62x51 rifle. That's the M1A. Now, it's kind of hard. 10 of these plugs can be kind of pricey. You're paying 60 or 70,000 for those plugs usually, which is right around where the rifle costs, sometimes cheaper. But the 7.62x51 M80 round absolutely wrecks at low levels. It's fantastic against scavs and even really good against players. So keep that in mind that this is available to you here with just a little bit of work. Now, up next is Mechanic, and he's probably one of our most prolific traders with barters. He has tons of them, but a couple of them really stand out. And one of those is the toolkit, first off. Now, you might think this is silly because it's a toolkit. What's the big deal? You just buy these. Well, you have tasks come up before you get to the flea market. This is one of your best ways to get a tool set. You just got to get the couple of tools. You can barter for them, and then you can use them to fix that broken flashy red lights on factory or in your hideout upgrades prior to the flea market. And even once you get to the flea market, you should watch this because frequently this is the cheapest way to get them. These toolkits can push pretty hefty prices. Right now we're talking 80, 90,000. I've seen them as high as 100, and as long as you're getting your parts for the right price, you can do this for 50, 60,000 rubles for the barter. Now, after that, also, we have an ump barter, just like we do on PeaceKeeper. This one's a little more complex, but it's just as valuable. You just need 3 items, a DVD, a hard drive, and 2 capacitors. So if you're looting lots of computers, you're going to find these all over the place, and it nets you an ump. It also doesn't run out like the other barter. I don't know why, because it's priced pretty similarly, maybe a little bit more expensive, but it's just as good of a barter. And then after that is another one of the ones I always use early wipe in case I get lucky and find one of these in raid, but is the ammo case. You'd be surprised at how much space ammo can take up in your inventory. So getting one of these, getting it bartered, and having somewhere to put all that ammo is just a huge help with the space struggle that we all have early wipe. Now, at loyalty level 2, we have even more barters to talk about, but many of these are for the gunsmith, and I do a whole video that talks about all the barters for the gunsmith, so you can go watch that if you want to, if you're interested in that, specifically about what barters to look for and how they save you money. But one of my favorite videos is also a gunsmith barter, but it has a ton of utility elsewhere, and that's the Hybrid 46. This is 4 Rams, and these are usually less than 10K a piece. A lot of times you can get them out at 8 or 7,000, which means you're getting a good suppressor. It's not the best suppressor, but it's a good suppressor for less than 40,000 rubles. And with the right attachments, you can put this on almost any weapon in the game. There's just a few you can't, primarily pistols and some of the Russian weapons. But as the wipe goes on, this costs less than 40k still for the whole period of the wipe just about. And it's really good ergo. I use it a lot on sniper rifles and stuff because it's only got a negative 17 ergo, which is one of the lower ones of all the suppressors out there. Now after that is two, I think, barters that a lot of people don't utilize that they should, and it's the SKS barters. They're kind of spendy right now. The problem with them is weapon parts are really valuable, but they'll get cheaper. They'll get to where they're like 10, 12, 13k here in a couple of weeks or a month of the start of the wipe. But even now with 3 weapon parts, you're getting a pretty highly modded OPSKS that you can put some sights on and be extraordinarily effective with. Now this other one is technically an SKS, but what you can do is just pull the SKS off and put an OPSKS on the same parts and you're good to go. And the beauty of this this specific body for the SKS is it allows you to put a foregrip on there to get that extra ergo or recoil reduction depending on what you want to do. Now, I'll mention them. You do have a couple of these M4 barters down here, but I don't recommend them to people because you just don't have the ammo yet available to you to really run these and make them effective. But if you're an M4 person, you want to do it, they're here, go for it. The SII build gives you a halfway decent M4 for 7 GP coins with a lot of parts that you can't buy for, you know, another 20 levels. It's also able to be used in a couple of gunsmith builds with a few changes of parts. You can do this and be done with some of the M4 gunsmith builds. And then along that lines is this MP5 SD barter. It's really expensive now. It's not really worthwhile. It's better to go build it. But this is here later in wipe. This will be a lot cheaper and basically you got to throw like 2 parts on this, maybe 3. And it's ready to go for the Gunsmith 3, whatever the MP5 is. Maybe it's Gunsmith 4. It's 3 or 4. But with him wrapped up, let's hop to Ragman and look at his barters. So at level 1, you have this soap barter. I just want to bring it up because it's new. It's for an AWL. All AWL and all. The only reason to use this is if you need soap to upgrade your hideout early and you can't find it, but you found these alls, it gives you an option to do that. Outside of that, there's not much use for this barter. But on the flip side of that, you have the P.A.K.A. barter, which has use through a wide range of your player levels. Early on, it just gives you access to a cheaper P.A.K.A. than buying it. You know, you can get these masks off scavs all over the place, and then it gets you another P.A.K.A., which I always struggle with early, having armor as it is. But later on, when you're doing Punisher 5, I believe, you're required to wear a P.A.K.A. and a 6B47 helmet. And I burn through tons of them. That's one of the harder tasks for me to do. I just die a lot because of the damn P.A.K.A. armor sucks. But this is a cheaper way to get it. You know, you can get these for 20, 22, 25,000 rubles, which is cheaper than you can pay for it on the flea market and just saves you that little bit extra money. So along with the Punisher theme of things, we have the 6B47 Ratnik helmet, 2 bleaches. It gets you one of these really good class 3 helmets. Covers your ears. Again, needed for Punisher 5, so a cheaper way to get it than buying it. But it's, in my opinion, you should be running this and not the Peen helmet if you have that available to you. That helmet is 22,000 rubles. It's class 3, but it doesn't cover your ears. It has no ear protection, just top and nape. Plus, you can't put NVGs on it or anything like that, which you can with the 6B47. So good value, good helmet. Probably, I suggest people use this over anything else, but you do you. Moving up to level 2, this is where we get our first taste of level 4 armor, primarily the MMAC, which kind of like the ump, you're going to see these everywhere. Basically what you're going to see is people running around in MMACs and umps for like the next month as of making this video, or at low levels, because they're just the best in class for people. This barter only costs about 55 to 60k if you buy all the components off the flea market, and it gives you a class 4 that repairs well, is light, and is readily available. Now, he also has a tri-zip barter, and this one's expensive. You know, ES lamps right now are pretty pricey, 20, 30k, which means to get this tri-zip, you're spending about 120,000 rubles. But it's a really important barter because it gives you 30 slots versus 10 slots, which not just the number of extra slots to carry loot out a raid with, but it allows you to put some guns and stuff in your bag that you can't with, like, let's say, a Berkut or a scav bag or any of those size bags. So it's often worth the risk to spend the extra money for a bag like this to be able to get, if you survive 1 or 2 raids with this, it's going to pay for itself 3 or 4 times over with those extra 10 slots. But past that, the last one we'll mention for Ragman on loyalty level 2 is the ZSH face shield helmet. It's 2 plexiglass, which costs anywhere from 20 to 30k, but it gives you access to your first class 3 face shield that you can wear with a class 4 helmet, which is this ZSH. Though if you're looking for helmets, you can usually get the black one a little bit cheaper, buying these on the flea market if it's available to you. This is what I run factory early wipe with, or early at low levels, because it'll stop most pistol rounds that people have, and most of the shotgun rounds. You won't get one tapped in the face, and you can actually survive those and fight back. Now, our last trader we're going to talk about is Jaeger, and A lot of people don't like him because he's hard to level up. They think their tasks suck, but he's got some of the best barters in the game. And the first one out the gate is the Scav Vest. I talk about this every wipe, but people still don't know about it. And you might ask, why is this important? Well, there's a couple of tasks where you have to wear it first off, but two, you can also use it for crafting. And instead of spending the 15, 20, sometimes 30,000 rubles on one of these Scav Vests, if you go buy a Slickers, usually less than 10K, a lot less than 10K, you barter for 3 of these things. Then you can make you craft in your lavatory, or you have them for the Punisher task, or I think it's setup, or one of the skier tasks you got to wear it with too. And then along with that on one is the dog tag. Just a quick mention. This isn't important just if you have lots of dog tags. It's important because you can actually make money with this. Later in wipe, when thumb drives get cheaper, you can buy them, barter them, and then just sell this right to therapists for 195,000. But if you have non-found in raid flash drives, this is the best use for them. Throw them into this because it makes them worth about 65K a piece. Sell it to therapist, and then even if you die with a flash drive in your container, it's not a total loss, and you get more than the 35 or 40,000 rubles that skier will give to, or not skier, fence will give to you for them. And then the CMS barter is a great utility barter because at low levels, you don't have access to CMSs, you can't buy them, and it sucks not being able to fix black legs and arms in raid. 3 of these nippers, they're pretty easy to find. You just run with those, keep them, trade for your CMSs, and this gives you a good source till you get to the flea market and actually can buy them for decent prices on the flea. Now over to loyalty level 2 is probably one of my most used barters, and this is sugar. Right now it's not a big deal, but you can almost always get sugar cheaper this way than you can buy it on the market. 5 Amelia Rise, you can do one of these per reset with him. I do this nonstop for most of the wipe for crafting moonshine or anything else in the hideout that requires sugar. And then on the food note, we have the Holodink, which is the only cooler. It's the only way you can get this. You can't get it in raid anymore like you used to be able to. So this is it. It's loyalty level 2 barter. It gives you access to something to hold food in. It also is what props all of these food prices up for as long as it does. You know, the hot rods, tarcolas, herrings, and squashes are all worth a bunch of money because of this barter. Now, another kind of interesting item that's very specific. It has one use, and that's basically to mount rebuy to your weapons. Is the D-Lock. It's the only way you can get it, other than buying it from players on the flea market, which is usually really expensive. The D-Lock with 4D batteries, and then you can mount a rebuy to pretty much any gun. And the last one we will mention is the M700. This barter is super good because a brand new M700, while you can buy broken ones for cheaper, a brand new one's going to cost you, at least 65,000, 70,000 if you have traders. But after that, you're talking 70, 80, 90,000 off the flea market. Whereas a Deadly Slob's beard oil costs probably 35, 40,000. We're pushing 50 here now, but still cheaper than what it is. Those will come back down. It's the cheapest way to get M700 all wipe long. This is how I always get them if I'm going to run them. So keep that in mind. Now to wrap this up, I'm going to do 2 quick shout outs for myself, commercials if you will, but they're my stuff. I'm not doing it for somebody else. I got merch. People ask about it a lot. This is mine. I make this stuff. Airwingmarine.com. You can find this and other Tarkov related stuff. Supports the channel. If you want it, go ahead. And then my own music. I have a production company that makes music for me. It's free to use. It's on Spotify. Links in the description. It's also free to use for content creators. As long as you attribute us. You can use it on YouTube or Twitch or whatever, and you don't have to worry about DMCA takedowns or copyright strikes. That's what we made it for. It's just like Harris Heller's music. It's free for content creators to use, so you guys have access to music that doesn't ruin your day. But with that, we'll wrap it up. I thank you guys for watching. Wish you the best of luck in raids. We'll see you in Tarkov.